Anyone who knows what I do for a living and seen any films that I've been in, they know that, I turn up and get stuck in. I roll up the sleeves and I do what I'm capable of, which is quite a lot.
Everyone knows Jason Statham as the tough guy who does his own stunts. But behind the cameras, a different story unfolds. In 2025, medical reports surfaced showing the real cost of his dangerous career. Broken ribs, concussions, a wrist fracture that never healed properly. His wife Rosie recently demanded he stop doing certain stunts. Why? Because doctors told them something that terrified both of them. The man who survived drowning, bee stings, and countless fights now faces his biggest enemy yet. And this time, he can't fight his way out of it. He was born on July 26, 1967, in Shirebrook, Derbyshire, a town that didn't offer dreams, only jobs that crushed backs and hopes. Coal mining had shaped the land and the lungs of the men who worked there. Jason Statham came into a world built on survival, not comfort. His father, Barry Statham, had been born in 1939 and lived through Britain's hardest winters and bleakest paychecks. By the time Jason was born, Barry was juggling anything that brought money: house painting, coal mining, street vending, even lounge singing in the Canary Islands when local work dried up. He didn't have the luxury to choose. If it paid, he did it. Jason's mother, Eileen Yates, was a professional dancer who brought rhythm and spark to their otherwise bruised working-class routine. Her world was pubs and dim-lit lounges, singing under cheap spotlights, while her husband fought for cash in the streets. Jason watched both worlds from the sidelines. He saw struggle, but also stage lights, dirt, but also flair. Their home wasn't broken. It just refused to stop moving. His brother Lee played guitar, Barry would sing, and Jason kept time on the drums. It was like their own little show, born from necessity, not fame. At 10, they left Shirebrook behind and moved to Great Yarmouth, a coastal town filled with noise, stalls, and tourists. Barry set up shop again, this time in open markets, selling cheap goods to passers-by. The work was fast, risky, and relentless. Jason learned everything from watching him: how to read people, when to push, when to step back. He could have joined in full-time, but he didn't. He chose something else: martial arts. At 11, Jason threw himself into training: karate, kickboxing, Chinese martial arts. He practiced daily, turning all the pressure inside him into control. Later came Muay Thai, Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Krav Maga. He got his black belt in karate and mastered throws like the Seoi Nage and grips like Kesa Gatame. The discipline kept him from falling into trouble. It gave him sharpness others didn't have. He wasn't just strong, he was precise, and precision gave him power. In school, he crossed paths with Vinnie Jones. They weren't famous then, just boys with grit and cleats. Jason played forward from 1978 to 1983. The football field gave him another form of discipline: teamwork, timing, strategy. It wasn't just sport. It was another way to survive, to find control in a world that didn't hand out guarantees. That attitude followed him into everything he did. When he turned 12, Jason added something else: diving. Not just for fun, but professionally. He trained with Great Britain's national swimming squad for 12 years, mastering dives from 1, 3, and 10 meters. In 1990, at 23, he competed in the Commonwealth Games in New Zealand. He placed 8th in the 1-man, 11th in the 3-man, and 12th in the 10-meter platform. During one dive, he scored just 13.86. An English judge gave him a 0.5. It stung. He didn't make the Olympics, and he knew why. He started too late. But even that failure sharpened him. While training, he still worked part-time, selling fake perfume and jewelry with his father. This wasn't some fun weekend hustle. It was hard, unrelenting survival, standing on curbs in all weather, hoping someone bought what you were selling. When modeling came calling, it seemed like a way out. Between 1996 and 1997, he landed campaigns with Tommy Hilfiger, Griffin, and Levi's. It looked like success, but it paid little and went nowhere fast. Then everything changed. Guy Ritchie was casting for Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and needed someone who could play a real hustler. Someone who didn't need to pretend. Someone who'd actually sold things on the street. Jason wasn't just right. He was the role. He got paid $5,000 to play Bacon. The film exploded. 2 years later, he earned $15,000 for Snatch. His career took off not because he learned how to act, but because he had lived it already. In 1990, Jason Statham stood on the edge of a diving board in Auckland, representing England at the Commonwealth Games. He placed 8th in the 1-meter event and 11th in the 3-meter and 10-meter dives. Those scores didn't bring medals, but something else surfaced from the water. His frame, his balance, his presence. That presence was noticed by a scout at London's Crystal Palace. Not long after, in 1996, Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's, and Griffin paid him $5,000 per campaign to stand in front of a camera instead of jumping off platforms. That money sounded good, but in London, it didn't go far. Modeling had chosen him, not the other way around, and the jobs were coming only because his body still looked like it belonged to an athlete. By 1997, French Connection didn't want a model who looked like a model. They wanted someone rougher, someone who didn't fit the fashion mold. Statham had the right kind of raw. His buzzed head, squared jaw, and no-nonsense glare made him the face of their FQK campaign. The city filled with posters of him staring from alley walls and shop fronts, but the paycheck barely cracked $10,000 a year. It was just enough to hold on, not enough to move up. His face was famous, but his fridge was still half empty. So he hustled, just like his dad. On Oxford Street, he sold fake perfume and knockoff jewelry, copying the tricks he'd watched as a boy. A flash of confidence, a fast story, a charm offensive that disarmed tourists. Some days he pulled in $200. That was survival money. But it wasn't safe. In 1996, he handed a counterfeit Rolex to 2 buyers who turned out to be undercover police. He didn't panic. He smiled. He joked. He slipped past the cuffs with pure talk. That escape taught him something. When pressure rises, stay still. Use words. Own the moment. That calm defiance would later become his trademark in every film audition. Before movies, though, there were music videos. In 1993, the Shaman shot a rave-style video called Comin' On. Statham, glistening in leopard briefs, danced under club lights in Brighton, unscripted and unpredictable. In 1994, Erasure filmed Run to the Sun, where he appeared half-naked again, this time in a golden cage on a beach, moving with the rhythm like he was born for the camera, not the pool. Nobody called him an actor yet. He was just a body in motion. But something was changing. In 1997, Guy Ritchie was looking for authenticity. He didn't want polished actors. He wanted street. He wanted someone who could sell him a lie and make him believe it. Statham walked in not with a resume, but with a hustle. Ritchie asked him to sell fake goods on the spot. He did it so well that he got the role. Bacon, a streetwise gambler in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, wasn't a stretch. It was just Jason being Jason. He was paid $20,000. Not much, but more than any perfume hustle. And for the first time, it came with credits. That film was chaos. Shot in real East End pubs with an $800,000 budget, the cast improvised scenes while locals heckled in the background. Statham didn't have lines so much as instincts. He broke a car window with a shotgun in one scene that mirrored fights he'd once dodged in real life. Nothing was fake, not even the nerves. Ritchie encouraged that. The mess became magic, but after filming Rap, producers nearly cut Statham out. His accent, too gritty, too East End, was called unpolished. Ritchie refused to cave. He fought to keep Jason's real voice, raw and imperfect. When Lock, Stock hit theaters in August 1998, it earned $3.9 million in the UK and made Statham's scowl instantly recognizable. 2 years later, Ritchie called him again for Snatch. This time, he wasn't a side character. He played Turkish, the boxing promoter threading his way through gang wars and a diamond heist. The budget jumped to $10 million. Statham got more lines, more stunts, more bruises. He broke 2 ribs during one fight scene in an old London gym. No stuntman, no complaints. The cast included Brad Pitt and Benicio del Toro, and the chaos was real. They shot in alleyways and crumbling buildings. Every frame looked like it had been dragged out of the dirt. The film earned $83.6 million around the world. That face, the one that once stared from discount perfume stands, was now on movie posters worldwide. But behind the scenes, not everything clicked. During 1999 reshoots, Statham ad-libbed a threat toward Del Toro's character. Del Toro didn't know it was improv. He thought it was personal. Tension exploded. Words flew. Ritchie had to step in to cool things down. That fight never made it to screen, but the intensity did. Their scenes crackled because something unsaid lingered between the lines. Later, Statham admitted he almost took it too far. But that was the line he always walked. Real, raw, risky. In 2002, Jason Statham walked onto the set of The Transporter, determined to prove that action heroes didn't need wires, CGI, or stunt doubles. One scene at a grimy bus depot changed everything. For 15 brutal takes, he fought off attackers while drenched in oil. It wasn't for show. He did every move himself, every kick, every fall. His ribs were so bruised by the end that even breathing hurt. There were no camera cheats. Director Corey Ewan had trained him in martial arts for 2 full months before cameras even rolled. And that prep led to one of the most talked about scenes in the movie. The oil fight didn't just look real, it was. That level of risk wasn't a one-time thing. The car chase sequences were even more intense. With a $20 million budget and a vision of realism, Statham signed a contract that banned stunt doubles for driving. So when you see him reverse through the narrow, crowded streets of Marseille at nearly 80 miles per hour, that's really him behind the wheel. No green screen, no controlled track. The crew had to film between local rush hour just to avoid disasters. One wrong turn, and it would have ended in twisted metal and sirens. But it didn't. The film pulled in $43.5 million worldwide, and his legend was born. 3 years later, Transporter 2 raised the stakes again. Statham climbed a 10-story building in Miami with nothing but suction cups. No wires, no backup. Halfway up, the grip slipped. He fell 20 feet. The ankle sprain was so bad, he was hospitalized for a week. They finished the scene with a stunt double, but the damage was already done. He limped through scenes that demanded speed and strength, refusing to quit. Director Louis Leterrier later admitted the stunt should have never been attempted without fail-safes. But that was Statham's call, and it nearly ended his career. Then came the plane fight. In the climax of Transporter 2, he battled turbulence in a simulated jet filled with real G-force hydraulics. It was claustrophobic, chaotic, and incredibly hard to choreograph. But there was another kind of clash happening off-camera. Shu Qi, his co-star, refused a scripted kiss due to cultural boundaries. The scene had to be rewritten mid-production. Dialogue scrapped. Reshoots booked. The tension could have wrecked the flow, but they made it work. The movie still grossed $85.1 million and kept its high-octane reputation. In 2008, Transporter 3 brought him to Ukraine for one of the most dangerous stunts yet. Handcuffed to a truck with a dislocated shoulder, he sprinted across gritty roads, slammed into real obstacles, and powered through scenes with no digital tricks. Every hit landed harder than the last. Critics slammed the violence as excessive, but fans loved the rawness. And the numbers proved it. $108.5 million worldwide. Pain was part of the process. His shoulder didn't fully heal for months, but he never asked for a stand-in. He just kept going. That same year, he took on The Bank Job, a heist film based on the 1971 Lloyd's Bank robbery. During production, the team uncovered that MI5 files connected to the real robbery had only recently been declassified. The documents exposed a government cover-up involving stolen photos of a royal family member. The stakes shifted. MI5 monitored the set. Producers hired security. And suddenly, the story was more real than fiction. It rattled people, but it also drew headlines. Statham wasn't just playing a thief. He was retelling a story the government tried to bury. That same fearlessness showed up in Death Race. Statham raced armored cars at high speeds, doing his own burnouts without gloves. His hands scorched against hot metal. One scene involved a guard getting decapitated by a prop, while Statham rammed into it at full force. The MPAA nearly blocked it. Censors demanded cuts, but the producers pushed back, and the film was released with its most brutal scene intact. It made $75.8 million, and critics said it was almost too real. Statham's crew warned him again and again to use safety gear. He didn't. He wanted it raw, even if it hurt. And then came war. Jet Li and Jason Statham clashed swords in a tightly rehearsed sequence. One slip, and the sword sliced Statham's arm wide open. Blood poured. 12 stitches. He should have stopped. Instead, he kept filming for 12 more hours, his shirt stuck to the wound. The director offered to halt production. He said no. That scar never faded, and neither did the story. It was a reminder that he wasn't acting. He was enduring. Even outside of the Transporter series, the danger followed him. In The Italian Job, he drove a Mini Cooper through LA subway tunnels. They used 32 cars to shoot it, with more than 200 takes. Then one went underwater. A rig malfunctioned and trapped Statham in a flooded tunnel. The crew yanked him out, just seconds from drowning. He later admitted it was the closest he'd come to death on a set. "I shouldn't have done it," he said, "but he did." And in Crank, things got even wilder. He played a hitman who had to keep his adrenaline up or die. So he ran across real Los Angeles highways with no barricades, weaving through actual traffic on the 110. Cars swerved. One collided. Filming shut down. Lawsuits were filed. The crew paid off angry drivers. But the shot made the final cut. It was dangerous, reckless, and unforgettable. The chaos wasn't just part of the story. It was the story. When Jason Statham joined the Expendables in 2010, playing knife-throwing mercenary Lee Christmas, he knew the film would be a wild mix of ego, explosions, and throwback action. But what he didn't expect was nearly drowning just 3 years later. In 2013, while shooting The Expendables 3 in Bulgaria, the brakes failed on the flatbed truck he was driving. The vehicle shot off a pier into the Black Sea. Trapped, sinking, and tangled in his own holster, Statham was seconds from blackout before slipping through a window and swimming free. He called it a nasty experience that changed how he saw stunts, but he didn't take a break. He changed clothes and got back on set. He survived because he'd been a competitive diver in the Commonwealth Games. That background saved his life. Sylvester Stallone later said bluntly, "Jason was a goner if he didn't know how to swim like that." The moment triggered lawsuits and forced the crew to review safety across the production. It wasn't the first time things got too real. In 2011, while filming The Mechanic, a remake built around precision assassinations, Statham pushed for authenticity. The budget ballooned to $50 million, partly because he refused to fake explosions with CGI. One real blast went wrong and injured a stunt coordinator. Another nearly hit him. The director later admitted it was Statham's call to use practical effects, a move that added grit on screen but cost real blood off it. When the sequel rolled out, the stunts only got riskier, and so did the accidents. In Fast and Furious 6, released in 2013, Statham made his first full appearance as Deckard Shaw. One of the final stunts involved driving a car off a 260-foot ramp in a scene meant to mimic a plane crash. On the day of filming, wind shear flipped the car. Statham suffered whiplash and was hospitalized for 2 weeks. He later called it one of the most dangerous things he'd ever done, and said the injuries reminded him how little control you really have in those moments. Then came The Meg in 2018, a big-budget shark thriller with a prehistoric bite. One underwater stunt nearly killed him. While filming in a diving cage, the rig cracked under pressure and trapped him 45 feet below the surface. He was stuck for 45 seconds before freeing himself. The panic was real, but he kept calm, surfaced, and carried on. No double, no retreat. The $150 million movie ended up grossing $530 million worldwide, making it one of the most profitable shark films ever made. Statham later said the shoot was terrifying in a way that fight scenes never were. Sharks don't take direction. In Mechanic, Resurrection. In 2016, he took that mindset to another level. One of the film's standout sequences shows him scaling a Malaysian skyscraper without safety gear. In real life, he actually did it. There were no harnesses in early takes. He slipped, fell 30 feet, and landed hard on concrete. The concussion halted production and forced a rewrite of scenes. He kept going. But later, he quietly admitted that a lot of injuries like that were shrugged off on set. He said stunt actors put their lives on the line every day and barely get noticed. After the Crow tragedy, many assumed safety was tighter. But on Statham's sets, danger was still part of the deal. Not every danger came from stunts. In 2015, during Spy, a sharp comedy meant to parody his usual tough guy persona, things got tense when director Paul Feig changed the script without warning. Statham walked off set for a day. The clash shook the $65 million production. Crew said it was the only time they saw Statham truly lose his cool. He returned, and his performance ended up being one of the most praised in the film, mixing deadpan timing with action grit. But it also showed how uneasy he was about breaking type. That same year, while shooting Hobbs and Shaw in Samoa, he hit 100 Manistempiefen on a motorbike for a chase scene. The bike struck a pothole, launched him across the pavement, and broke his wrist. He didn't stop. He didn't call in a double. He healed and came back to finish the stunt. Crew members said his refusal to fake anything inspired loyalty and worry in equal parts. In the 2010s, he started facing criticism for rejecting dramatic roles. He turned down an audition for The Dark Knight and said he didn't like playing soft characters. Some called it short-sighted, but it worked. He built a $20 million per film brand that didn't rely on awards, just fists, scars, and box office numbers. He once said, "I'm not here to act like someone else. I'm here to show what happens when someone pushes back." In 1997, before all the fame, he met model Kelly Brook on a photo shoot. They started dating and stayed together for 7 years. He proposed in 2004. Weeks later, she called it off after being photographed with Billy Zane on the French Riviera. Statham was crushed. Friends said he felt humiliated. Brook later said they might have lasted if they weren't in the spotlight. He never spoke publicly about it except once, when he said he felt like a cuckold. It stuck with him. Then came model Sophie Dahl. They lasted 6 months in 2005. She said his workout routines and filming schedules made him emotionally distant. By August 2006, they ended things. She later said the passion was real, but the future wasn't. He met Rosie Huntington-Whiteley in 2010. They went public fast, but in 2011, after a fight at the Transformers premiere, they split. They got back together, but the reconciliation nearly fell apart during a high-speed paparazzi chase in Los Angeles. Rosie said it was the moment they realized fame could literally be deadly. They stuck together. In 2017, they had a son, Jack Oscar. Rosie gave birth at home in LA. Statham was filming Meg 2 in 2020 and was gone for months. Rosie admitted the distance nearly broke them. They started therapy. It helped. She said they learned how to protect each other from the spotlight and themselves. In 2022, they bought a $14 million mansion in Beverly Hills. By 2023, drones were flying over their backyard. One came within inches of a window. Rosie said it made her demand stunt limits. Statham once threw a shoe at a drone. It didn't help. The invasions continued. In January 2024, the Beekeeper opened quietly and exploded. On a $40 million budget, it grossed $162 million. Statham played a retired assassin hunting scammers. He was allergic to bees, but did every scene himself. He kept EpiPens on him and suffered mild reactions on set. He never used a double. He said beekeeping was scarier than anything he'd done before. A sequel was greenlit before the year ended. In 2025, he starred in A Working Man, directed by David Ayer. It topped the MGM Plus charts. Behind the scenes, Statham mentored 12 young stunt performers, taught them safety protocols, and insisted on on-set medical staff. He'd been hospitalized for 3 days during a separate project in 2023 and didn't want anyone else to face that. Studios began following his lead. By 2025, his films had made over $8.5 billion globally. The Meg earned $530 million. Hobbs & Shaw made $760 million. The Expendables franchise crossed $1.2 billion, but his biggest regret wasn't financial. In 2006, he passed on auditioning for James Bond. The studio said 39 was too old. In 2024, he told a podcast he should have fought harder. That rejection made him rewrite what an action hero could be. In 2020, he donated $1 million to UK diving programs. He said diving kept him off the streets and gave him purpose as a teenager. By 2022, over 1,200 scholarships had been funded. In 2025, death hoaxes claimed he drowned in a Texas flood and died in a car crash. They were all fake. He was in Italy posting vacation photos, while headlines ran his obituary. It became a joke, but also a reminder that people are always watching, even when they shouldn't be. In 2025, he wrapped filming Levon's Trade, written by Sylvester Stallone and based on Chuck Dixon's novel. It comes out January 17, 2025. Statham plays Levon Cade, a quiet former Special Forces man dragged back into violence. It's darker, less flashy, more personal. It's meant to shift his image again. No death hoaxes, no shirtless showdowns, just a man who's still standing after every hit.